Hey girl, welcome to the She Believed He Could podcast, a declaration encouraging women to believe again. Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things we cannot see. So join me, your host, as I open up about my faith to believe in marriage, motherhood, sisterhood, and so much more. Let's start the show. For those who listened over on the podcast episode, and so I shared a post for those who don't quite know me. I know we have a lot of new followers on Instagram, but my name is Kiana Price, and I am the founder and host of the She Believed He Could movement. We have a podcast. You can listen to our show on major podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora. There's a bunch more. The link is in the Instagram bio if you are curious. And I shared a post. The question was for the night, those who are chimed in now and those who would chime in later. The question is, what does third quarter look like when you are coming out of halftime? And I'm not thinking game related. I'm not thinking sports. I'm not thinking this. Really sit with me here on a spiritual level here. Give you the definition for halftime. Halftime is the period of rest between the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. So right in that middle place is where we are in this period of rest. And so for those who started this new year, coming out of the gate, going into conferences, going into meeting after meeting, either whether that was a career change, whether that was you was starting a new business venture, whatever that looks like, whatever the first half of this year looks like for you. Halftime for you would be where things kind of slowed down a little bit. You took some time away. You took some time off to get back to a place of stillness, really centering yourself, getting back to a place where you're resting at God's feet, where you're shutting out the outside noise, and you are finding your grounds. You are putting your feet back underneath you. And so that will be your halftime. Getting that rest before entering something new or entering the second half of the year. So I'm going to share this testament. If you had not seen the post, I said, God revealed underneath the frozen ground of winter a season that isolates and hibernates, a season that hides to protect its roots, its vines, and its potential to bloom due to such barren conditions. Some of us are coming into a second half of this year into a season of spring, a season that is between the lost and the found, a season that transitions from barren to fertile. Spiritually, we've been in a place of rest, restoration, reconfiguration, and reassignment. And God was showing me with rest comes answers. Restoration comes with the healing. Reconfiguration comes with that change. And reassignment comes with the second chance or the chance to be given something new. We are coming out of halftime. And so my halftime for me, when I didn't acknowledge that it was a season of rest, I was really tormenting myself because of how still I was. And I don't know if you struggle with this, but when there doesn't seem to be anything going on in your life, or if you're feeling that everybody's in motion except for you, you start to torment yourself. You really start to get in your own way. You're in your head about a lot. You're talking down upon yourself. You start feeling mental illness of anxiety, maybe even depression. And I know for me, I was starting to self-sabotage. I was starting to talk myself up on a ledge when it came to my purpose and calling and things like that, because I was in a place of stillness. I did not recognize it as rest. I did not acknowledge it as a season where God really needed me to recenter myself, or where he needed me to come back to him. I think for many of us, we are called out to the masses. We're called out to do all these many things that he puts on our hearts and us to desire to do, but we don't give ourselves back over to the Lord enough. Not saying that we don't ever have quiet time, not saying that we don't ever get planted in our word and we don't find these places of worship, but we don't plant ourselves back at the feet. We don't allow ourselves to lay along the living waters. We don't shower ourselves in his love and in his word like we need it. And so that was me. It was like I was finding these places of isolation. And with that came rejection, denial. I think for a little bit there, I was confused. I was like, how did I go from this part of my life or this area of my life to this? And so you start to question the whole mission. And like I said on one of my podcast episodes recently, you start to abort the mission off of one thought. You start to think, what if this whole thing was for nothing? Or what if I really wasn't supposed to do this? And so you start talking yourself into a pit that only God now at this point can pull you from. Because now you done kind of dwindled down into something that God never wanted you to be, but some kind of way you've allowed yourself to be in this place. Like I said in the beginning, that we as believers, we don't talk about the season of rest enough. We don't talk about this halftime between starting and ending. We don't talk about that middle place. And so coming a little bit of testament. So last week was my last week at my old job, a job that I had been with for a year. And if you listen to the podcast and you've been following a few episodes, you kind of know some of the riffraff that's been going on at the job and how I have been in prayer for God to release me from this job. I was frustrated. I was upset. I felt like I was in a place of bondage behind this job, that my voice felt muzzled at times. I felt like I was getting shoved out and that they didn't want me there physically. And so I kept going to God and I was questioning my place of position at this job, because although my voice felt muzzled, my spirit was able to still be free and walk into rooms and still be the light. But I think emotionally for me, it was draining. And so over time, God was revealing to me that he was not yet finished with me at the job. And I think a lot of us, sometimes we don't acknowledge the assignment at hand. We want to be used by God, but we don't acknowledge that when you are being used by God, you are the living vessel. And once God is using you to give glory back to him, or if he's using you to reach others, we don't get to say when we want the assignment to be finished. We don't get to pull the plug or throw in the towel when we feel that the assignment is done. When God says that the assignment is done, that's when it is finished. And so I thought about Jesus Christ and how many days he could have been frustrated at the thoughts of what the people was saying or what the people was doing, how they were still doubting, how there was still denial and rejection. He so many times he went back to the Father and asked God for his will, because to him it didn't make sense. To him it seemed like a lost cause, but it was like, God, Father, whatever your will is, let it be done. And I think for me, I kept going back to God with that same heart of just, God, whatever your will is, let it be done. Whatever your assignment is, please give me the desire and the will to see it through. Give me the will and the desire to complete this, especially underneath what I was burdened with, my frustration, my doubt, me feeling like I wasn't going to be able to be released from this job. And I think I struggled with that for far too long. And so I stopped praying about it. I stopped praying that God would release me, literally. I think God was waiting for me to give up, literally let go, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I had to let go. And once I did that, God started to unravel. Literally. Think about someone who's wounded, or someone who has a bandage, right? And so God started to unravel what I had been hurting all those months, all the problematic areas in my life. God started to unravel my very wounds, and I was able to see what he was doing underneath that bandage. In my eyes, what I saw is bondage. God started to unravel that, and I started to see the lights. I started to see the healing. I started to see lives being changed. I started to see women starting to bring out their Bibles and really start to read their word, all because of me being in a place of position where I wanted to abort and walk away from. God was still using that time that I was there for him to be able to get the glory. And so for me, I was exhausting and exerting so much of myself into this job that, the podcast and other things that I had on my to-do list wasn't getting done. And so God was allowing me to then walk into a place of rest. He was then allowing me to walk into this halftime that I now recognize it as, that you're going to need the rest, the restoration. You're going to need the reassignment of where I'm taking you. I don't want you to be looking where you came from. And at one point in my spiritual walk on this journey, I thought about Lot's wife and how she turned back and she turned into a pillar of salt. And so I started praying that prayer that, God, whenever you do release me and move me from this place of position, I want to be able to keep looking forward and keeping my eyes upon you. And so where I'm taking you next, you're going to need this place of rest. You're going to need to know that the restoration that you have felt burdened with all these months are going to be given unto you. You're going to know that when your next assignment is only going to be given to you by me. And so again, coming out of the halftime, what does that look like in third quarter? And I want you to know that what you thought was lost in the quarter before, or whether that's business related, ministry related, whether you was in school, whether you're a mom, whatever that looked like, whatever the loss that you think that you've had, or certain goals that you didn't achieve, I want you to know that it's okay that certain things didn't happen for you. And I see it as protection. I see it as a place of like the winter frozen ground, that God was using that to keep you isolated. He was using that to keep you comforted in his spirit, to knowing that where he's taking you into this next season, that you're going to blossom because of the protection of that season, because of what he's planting in you now. I think for me especially, I now know that this next season is for me to be able to bloom and be all of who I'm created to be, not be in a place of bondage emotionally or mentally by a job, or not feel pulled down or dragged by things that I cannot control. And so sometimes God takes us in those places of rest. And I look at Jesus all the time and how he pulled away often to be in these places of rest, where he really needed to only hear from the Father, where he only needed to be with the Father. And so there was many times where he pulled away. He wasn't chasing after goals. He wasn't chasing after miracle signs and wonders just to prove a point. No, he was there on assignment and he stayed focused. He stayed focused. So I just wanted to come on and encourage that your quarter three, you're coming into something because of where you came from. So quarter three for me is me coming out of halftime. And my halftime has been rest. It has been me trying to figure out what was the game plan, me getting my thoughts back in order, me getting my prayer time back in order, me getting back at the feet of God where I should be. And so it's me realizing that this next quarter or this next season of my life, I'm coming in renewed and I'm coming in refreshed, and that it doesn't have to look like what it used to look like, because I know this is a reassignment. I've been given a new something. I've been giving another chance. And so I wanted to encourage, especially believers, that we have to acknowledge our seasons of rest. We have to let it be known that I'm coming out of something and into something. It's not that I'm going, and that I don't ever get burnt out, and that I don't ever get tired, and I don't ever need time to be with the Lord, or just be who I'm called to be outside of the public or outside or off of social media, that I am coming out of a place of rest. And sometimes we have to remember that the assignment could look a whole lot different. Like I said, I've come out of that job. Now I'm going into another season where the assignment looks completely different. It's something new. And so I just wanted to get on here and chime about that. So what does your third quarter look like coming out of your season of rest? And for those who are still in their season of rest, what will your third quarter look like coming into halftime? When I thought to myself, like, okay, Lord, so I'm not coming from quarter 2 to quarter 3. I don't have to mentally beat myself up like your quarter 2 sucked, or what were you doing last quarter, or what were you, why were you just spinning your wheels with certain things? God was allowing me to acknowledge that I was coming out of halftime. God gave me the comfort to know that I'm coming into something from a place of rest, from a place of restoration, from a place of change. And so it postured my heart in such a way that I can acknowledge that I'm okay that everything on my to-do list set for this year isn't done. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with knowing that I am giving God my absolute best, and I don't care who I'm not showing up for outside of Him, or just knowing that you have to walk boldly in your faith in every room that you walk in and know that the Lord is with you. Be okay with that. Be okay with the comfort that the Lord is with you. And that even when you go into this next quarter, or if you're already starting to put your gears in motion when it comes to your business, or lining things up for you financially, or like I said, if that's just in your ministry as well, know that it's okay to come into that quarter or that season of your life from a place of rest. I think that was the biggest highlight for tonight, that we as people of faith, we have to start acknowledging those seasons more. We have to start sharing what our seasons of rest look like, and that all of us isn't just going, that some of us has truly been isolated, that some of us truly has been in a place of restoration. We're looking for areas to be restored. We're looking for healing in certain areas of our life, whether we want to share them publicly or not, but knowing that this is where I've been, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with sharing that I'm coming into something now. It's not that season for me was just so bitter and in drought, but no, truly, like, it was a season where I could rest, right? And so I wanted to share that with you guys on tonight. And I think it's important to share that we all are somewhere. Amen. Because I think I talk to quite a few people, and they just feel that they're just floating, or they're just here. But I like to encourage, and I like to say that no, you're somewhere. You just have to figure out what that looks like for you. I pray that this little snippet of discussion was good, and if you are aware that you can be coming out of halftime,